Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Tamara. Today we are back with our fantasy series, and we are discussing the second and final book in the Shepherd King Duology. If you would like to see this in video format without ad breaks, you'll need to head on over to Patreon and sign up. We also have after shows available on Patreon and Spreaker. After shows and exclusive audio-only content are available on the Spreaker app, so sign up as a supporter to gain access. Don't forget, you can also join me and my two co-hosts over on the Book Club's app for even more bookish chats. Please subscribe and like the podcast wherever you're listening. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Shelf Addiction. I'm still on X officially, but I've removed the app, so I'm done with that. Don't try to reach me there. Random stuff might auto-populate there, but it's not really me. So not there. Okay, joining me today is feature co-host Casey from Heartful of Ink. Welcome back, Casey.
Hello. I am excited to be here. I'm not excited about the book.
Hey.
It's going to be a rough one, guys. It's hold on to your butts. That's all I can say.
I actually had to, I'll tell you in a minute. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
You can find me on Facebook at Heartful of Ink, on Instagram at Casey_Heartful of Ink, or at my website, heartfulofink.com. And yes, I have given up X many years ago, before it became X, and just no, I'm not there.
Just no. Yeah, I get it.
Just no.
So before we begin, I'd like to remind you that with book chats, we talk full spoilers. So spoiler alert, you have been warned. Today we are discussing Two Twisted Crowns, written by Rachel Gillick. The audiobook is narrated by Lisa Corda de Leon, published on October 17th, 2023 by Orbit. The paperback is 437 pages. The unabridged audio is 14 hours and 12 minutes. Casey, would you kindly read the synopsis?
Yes, I will. Gripped by a tyrant king and in the thrall of dark magic, the kingdom is in peril. Elspeth and Raven have gathered most of the 12 Providence cards, but the last and most important ones remain to be found, the Twin Alders. If they're going to find the card before the solstice and set the kingdom free, they will need to journey through the dangerous mist-cloaked forest. The only one who can lead them through is the monster that shares Elspeth's head, the Nightmare, and he's no longer eager to share, or he's not eager to share any longer. No. That's my reaction.
That was a really short synopsis for this long ass book, which is longer than the last book, and it didn't need to be.
No.
Which in turn is like one of the things I disliked was the length. And in turn, the audiobook, I listened to this one on audio. It turned it into, we went from 12 hours to 14 hours.
Jesus.
And let me tell you a little something. I listened to this on Spotify of all places because I have a membership and I have 15 hours a month.
Yeah.
But because I have to keep rewinding on certain parts, and all this bullshit, I ran out of time with like 15 minutes left. I'm like, motherfucker. This bitch almost didn't get finished. But then there was something else I wanted to read. So I just went ahead and spent a little bit of money and topped off some minutes. So because if it wasn't that I had something else on there
to read,
I wouldn't have finished this book because I ran out of time on Spotify.
I love you so much.
It almost didn't happen. And it almost didn't happen. That was this morning. I'm like, fuck this book. It's not getting done. And on my drive home, I'm like, oh wait, there's one more thing on here I need to do. And my minutes don't top up for 11 more days. So I said, okay, you got me this time, Spotify. You got me this time, but we done after this. So note to self, I will never listen to an audiobook longer than the minutes that I have allowed, or if it comes too close, like I probably would never read or listen to another audiobook that's over 14 hours.
Oh God, no. Because not if you need to rewind it.
Yeah, so I'll give myself an hour of cushion. So if it's over 14 hours of listening, not on Spotify. That's a no, hard no. So I ain't buying no more minutes. That's crazy. So
Yeah,
that's
no, that is crazy. Oh my God.
yeah. So
Yeah.
So yeah, it almost didn't get done. So there's that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was speed reading the last hour, and then I texted you that I was going to be late because I still had to fucking finish it because it would not end.
It would not
It would
end.
not end. It just kept going and going and going, and I was like, "This has got to be the end." And then, nope, there was more.
There's more. There, too much more. There was way more than it
was
needed to be.
unnecessary. It was just.
It was painful.
It was very painful.
So I'm sorry, y'all. I picked this stuff based on the strength of book talk. You know how we like to do some book talk stuff. And I was really feeling the vibes because, you know, fall was upon us. We were right at the end of the summer. I said, oh, dark, creepy vibes. And I thought it would be, you know, all this stuff, and it didn't deliver that. So I'm so sad I did this to myself and to Casey and to all of y'all that were forced to read this along with us.
Okay, so back last month in book club, we were accused of being too mean with book 1, and I'm afraid we're going to get way meaner with book 2. So for Trinette, this is for you, Trinette. I want to say some nice things before we get too mean. And then like you can listen to the nice things and then you can stop the episode.
Oh, girl, look, I have 5 things that I like just for you. I wrote them down, girl. So I don't want you to think that we don't. Yeah, I don't want to be too hard, but I gotta be honest.
We gotta be honest. But so, for Trinette, we will just try to be nice.
Love you.
Yes, love you, Trinette.
Okay. High level. I know we kind of said, but what'd you think when you closed the book?
Thank God it's over. Okay. Finally.
Okay.
Also, there was that one line in the epilogue where she's like, I've changed. And my thought was, how can you change when you're living in somebody else's memories? Like,
yeah.
There was no option for her to have character growth because she was trapped inside another man's mind, inside of her own mind, reliving all of his memories, but somehow now her entire personality has changed.
I am confused about that part.
Yeah, no, that did not make sense. That was the last line of the book where I was like, okay, I give up now. Like, this is the epilogue. I'm limping through this. I give up.
Yeah, I actually was satisfied that Raven and what's her name, Elspeth, did not like get married or some dumb shit. I was happy.
They're going to. I thought that's where that was leading, where they're like, let's be kissy and we've both changed and we're both giggly and happy. And
I don't know. They can skip off into the forest for now, but
yeah.
I just am glad we didn't have some stupid double wedding or some dumb shit. Like
that would have been
that would have been not good. So I was like, okay, I guess. Which I guess leads me into the first thing I did like.
Okay.
So the first thing I did like, I actually liked and Ione together.
Yes.
And I actually liked how their relationship seemed kind of realistic. Like the pacing of that seemed real based on the things that we were dealing with. And the author did a good job with giving us history of them liking each other beforehand. So I could kind of believe it.
Yes. No, this is also on my top of like the good things that happened in this book was like, oh, she does know how to create a realistic, happy romance between characters where they both have agency. They both have personalities. There is depth. There is meaning to their relationship. They're doing stuff together. They both have goals.
Yeah.
Like they have goals people. And hobbies and personalities and they're bantering and they kiss and you know that they're actually kissing and it's not some weird thing that you have to keep rereading to be like, what is happening right now?
It's pretty clear. Nope.
It's very clear what they're doing. Even if they don't go all the way, like, you know where this is headed. So yes, kudos to this author. She grew a lot in that aspect because book 1, the romance was not there. Book 2, the romance is here with these secondary characters.
Who are now feeling like primary
who are now
characters.
Like the main characters.
Yeah, they're the main characters
there was
now.
nothing with Raven and Elspeth, which we'll get into later. But yes, that was a very good thing that happened in this book. And that shows me that this author can grow and learn and maybe write better books in the future. I won't read them, but I have hope for her in the future.
Yeah, because I liked how they were both really flawed and damaged people. But then we got like cute moments. Like they're how old are you? Oh, this is how old I am. Wait, when did you first see me? When did you like me? Like all these
they were really cute together.
Yeah. So we got some balance with all the horror of it because Ione like was tortured. And we knew that in the first book. We were like, oh, that guy. Oh boy.
We knew she was tortured. We thought she wanted this. And so I was a little surprised to find out that, like, she did not want this at all. And, like, this was thrust upon her. And I guess, you know, the author kept telling us, no, she doesn't want this because she has gap teeth and she smiles so widely and she didn't want to be queen. Remember all that in book 1? They told us that and we didn't believe it.
Yeah. Maybe the author changed her mind because I guess that's possible. She could have it could have been a misdirect because of the card. The card was like on forever.
Yeah, I think that's what it was that it was the card who was actually making her seem that way, even though we thought that was part of her personality. It was not done well, and I would have changed a lot of it. But overall, I really like her romance. So,
yeah. I liked her. I guess I liked the development of Ione after she was able to get, even like as she was starting to look for the card, you could see hints of like her in there, and would like notice like, oh, you can feel lust though. You can't do the other things, but we could do that. Okay. So, and then when the card is finally turned off, I feel like that's one of the best scenes when the card is turned off and you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? And she like has she crumbles, like all of the things that have been done to her.
And that she has done because she's murdered a few people.
Oh yeah. Like, can you imagine being tortured and almost murdered? He tried to murder her and
almost raped her too.
You could not feel anything about that. Like in your head, you feel a way, but you could not
feel it in your body
in an emotional way. So all of that stuff came like rushing out of her in a way that I felt very bad about. He he just kind of left her be, and kind of just
she told him to leave because she wanted to cry. Yeah.
But then he came back and he sat outside the room.
Outside.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, he's like, do you hate me? She's like, no, no, I don't hate you. But, I thought that was almost the best part of the book. That was the most well done.
I think out of both books, that might have been the best scene. Yeah. Like, that was definitely the most emotional, most romantic scene, I think, out of both books.
Yeah, I would agree. I bought it. I believed it. And
no, it was very realistic, very emotional, very much cemented that they are in love and there for each other in a way that, again, Raven and Elspeth never got that. We just were told they're in love.
Right.
Because he looked at her, he's like, I've wanted you since the second time I saw you. Yeah. And we're like, okay, but why? Yeah. When are you going to hold her?
Yeah. And plus also, and Ione are kind of tied together by being tortured by Hoth. They're both been tortured by this guy. And that's his own fucking brother.
Yep.
And he's just awful to him.
Awful. The worst.
Yeah. He's a horrible person. I was like, he better die. He better die.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So that's one of my highlights. Did you have one?
Yeah. So last time, I put on my editor hat and I told you how this book should not have been written in first person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the second book was written in third person. And I want to say, yes, this is where she shines. Like, as an author, as a writer, she does so much better in third person.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much more depth and emotion, and we're inside their heads in a way we never really got with Elspeth, even when she is floating in the Black Lake doing whatever. Like, I don't know if it's just the lack of personality that Elspeth has or something with the writers. I don't know. But third person, that is where she shines. That is where she needs to stick and write, and only write in third person. She can do that. And as it's very pretty and apparent in book 2 that that's what she is best at. And I really want her to just drop first person.
Yeah. And I mean, also along with this, the fact that she was able to do this from multiple characters' point of view, that's really good. And she did better with more characters, able to spread the focus, I guess, because maybe her original set of characters weren't really working out the way she wanted. So it seems like she readjusted, refocused.
Yeah, no, book 1 was entirely from Elspeth's point of view. And that's why it really was so slow and it dragged. And here, now we're seeing the whole world. We're getting all of these different aspects. We're seeing different people fall in love. We're, doing all of these journeys all at once. And yes, it's slow and boring and there's pacing issues, but that's so much better than book 1, where it was just one point of view. This is where she thrives. And again, I'm going to keep saying this. I hope Rachel is learning and growing as an author, and her future books will keep getting better. Like this got better from book 1. But
well, let me add a critique to that. While I enjoyed the flip, the rotating of perspectives, I don't understand why the audiobook treatment wasn't treated in the same manner. So, for example, it's the same narrator as last time, which is ultimately fine, but they needed a male narrator.
Yeah.
You needed a second narrator.
Yes.
When you're doing POVs from men,
multiple
men, yes, you need a male narrator, because I felt like that was part of my problem. Hearing the same voice, different variations of the same voice that weren't different enough.
Yes.
And
that would be so confusing.
The audiobook producer, whoever made the decision on that, they could have kept the narrator from before and added a man. That's what they should have done.
Yes. I didn't listen to it, but I agree fully. Because, I would say more than 70% of this book is from male point of view between Raven and Elm. Elspeth is a minor character in all of this. We barely see inside her head. Her chapters were very short. Even when we are in her head, they're still dealing with the Shepherd King and all of his stuff. No, there needed to be a male narrator for this book.
I agree. So that's it. That's my critique on that. So one thing good, one thing. Yeah. I can't just have all positives. I can't. So what else? Did you have another positive thing that you... Let's see. I think I said all of mine. Let's see. Wait. Let's see. Oh, okay. I did like the Nightmares character still.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's a positive. He was interesting.
I liked him. I did like how he felt more like an anti-hero to me this time than a villain. Like last time, he just gave me villain vibes, although I knew there was something else there. But this time, it's kind of clear to me that he's an anti-hero and he's not completely bad.
Yes.
So I
he
like
kind
that.
of is, but also when we started seeing his memories and how he just became obsessed with the cards and with magic, it was... Anti-hero is a good word.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone sets out to just become obsessed with something and to
Mm-mm.
ruin their life. So
Mm-mm.
it just happened. And now he's having to deal with that hundreds and hundreds of years later. Like the fallout of all of that. So but also to critique that as well, on the flip side, I felt like Elsbeth was just as dry and whatever as always.
Mm-hmm.
And even when, she's living like on this lake or whatever, and she's like living in his memories. And then when she comes back to the surface, she's still a passenger in her body. But even when she's talking to the nightmare or even talking to Raven, she seems real childlike and young in
Mm-hmm.
some ways. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was the chance for the author to show us some growth for that character. And I feel like we didn't get it. So while I like the nightmare,
Mm-hmm.
Elspeth was still
Yeah,
whack.
like I said earlier, there was absolutely no growth for her as a person. Oh, she still doesn't have hobbies or goals, and those are like basic 101 personality traits that anybody should have. But you're right, like she was very childlike. She would like demand, "Oh, you need to apologize. Oh no, you cut off my hair. I'm going to pout in here cuz my hair is gone." And everything she said, everything she did was very childlike is a good word for it. It was very
13, preteen.
13. Yeah, preteen.
Yeah.
She doesn't have agency. Even like, yes, okay, so he's taken over her body. She's not in control. But when he was like that, he still had agency. He still had character. He still had personality. Like he was himself, where she's just this passenger, if that makes sense. Like it,
Yeah.
she was not a good character.
Which is probably the reason why the author made this turn with this book. Like, I feel like the author must have realized that Elsbeth
I
wasn't
hope so,
the business. So she
because
changed, she really shifted gears here.
she did. No, she did, and I'm very happy that she did.
Mm-hmm.
But
I don't know.
also, I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say, okay, this is kind of mean, but do you remember the scene where they all had that magic in them where they started getting very ragey and mean and saying mean and nasty stuff to each other?
Mm-hmm.
That is one of my favorite lines in this entire book.
Is it?
is the king talking to Raven, and he goes, "You are without a doubt the greatest disappointment in 500 years, Raven. You. Every time I glance your way, I find myself wishing I'd spent another century in the dark, that I'd spared myself the agony of your stony, witless incompetency."
Jeez.
I stopped. I highlighted that. I was like, this moment right here. At least she's calling him out, because that is accurate.
Yeah, so the author is aware of how trashy some of these characters are.
Mhm.
They're not great.
Yeah, no, the whole scene was everybody ripping everybody to shreds. And I was like, but this line, this needs to be highlighted. This is perfection. Thank you for calling him out in a way that I really want to.
Yeah, that's perfect description of him, honestly. He's just...
Yeah, no, he's so incompetent. He's so terrible. They kept going on, "Oh, you have 3 names. Oh, who are you? The huntsman,
I couldn't
or
really figure out the name. Yeah, and then he had the name of his eldest son.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
because they're actually
exactly
related.
Yeah, but I wish, and this is the thing, I could only rewind so much. I couldn't go back to try to sort this out. And so it wasn't a crystal clear aha moment for me. It was still murky to me. So I'm sure
it was too obvious for me.
Okay.
Just because she kept talking about the name and she mentioned it over and over again, and then she stopped saying the name.
The reason was obvious? Like how the connection happened was obvious?
The connection, it actually... So last time, remember when we kind of theorized that, like, what if the U's are related and this is his descendants, and that's why they're like cousins to the king and not the actual king.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, and that's why it worked. And I was, had that in my head the whole time because we talked about it on the podcast last month. So that's why it was obvious to me. But I understand kind of forgetting that because it was just
I wasn't
weird.
Okay, so let me put it this way. I wasn't surprised or shocked, but I just didn't understand. Or, I feel like, okay, I read a lot of thrillers and mysteries and things with a lot of twist. When I get a twist and I realize all the things connect for me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what was missing. I'm not saying like I was shocked by the revelation. It was how it works in the background. I was fuzzy on still.
Rachel needs to work on her foreshadowing.
Yeah.
She really needs to work on foreshadowing and build up and letting readers kind of make these connections and be surprised. I don't know. Like you're right. It did not work. And I said, no shit when I read that and just skipped to the next page. I was not shocked, but
yeah.
Everything, it was so like everything we knew or everything we guessed came true because we guessed it. And it's one of those things where you need to really work on building more suspense and more surprises for the readers without I don't know. It's still very early on in her career. And yeah.
I think you're giving her a lot of grace with that because honestly,
I am.
There are brand new authors that knock it out the park immediately.
Oh, yes. No, I have a couple clients who I'm like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
What I'm reading published by Orbit is not.
And honestly, so like y'all know, I read the audiobook, but I was looking at some of the comments and people were saying they spotted errors. Like someone said 13 spelling errors, like immediately. Like, I'm like, oh shit. What happened to the editor?
One of the funniest things I saw was the quotation marks in the wrong spot. Like it was supposed to be here, but it was there. Like it was one of those things. I was like, yeah, this is. I mean, human error happens. People miss editorial typos and stuff, and every single book you'll ever read will have a typo in it. Like that's just.
Yeah, but not when you get to numbers like 13. I saw that. I'm like, 13? That's a high number, I think, in a newer author's book. So, and I think about this sometimes where you have like prolific authors writing 1 million books. And I think the editors get a little relaxed. They know they have built-in audiences. They know, they're not as tough on the edits as they could be. But when you're brand new, you better dot those I's and cross those T's.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
So, okay, I have one more good thing and then we'll take a break. So here's my final official good thing about this duology. And the cover art. It's spectacular.
It is. I was thinking about that on the way to this podcast. Was like, the cover art is amazing. The marketing is really good. Everything people tell me about this book, like it's gothic, it's mysterious, it's romantic, there's this magic in the mist and all of it. Like it has all of the right elements. It just, the story does not deliver.
Yeah.
And that's so disappointing. Like it could have been so good. And I know she has the talent and she can write really, really pretty sentences, but the story itself is just pedantic. And it's not hitting any of those marks for me.
Yeah. And that's like so unfortunate because, the whole don't judge a book by its cover. I try not to do that. But if I was perusing, Barnes and Noble and I saw these books, I would gravitate toward them just because of how they look.
And everybody judges covers, even if you're doing it subconsciously. Yes, you are judging covers. Everybody does it for every reason possible. And these covers are stunning.
They are stunning. So someone got the assignment right. Unfortunately, the inside didn't really match the outside.
No. And that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. It definitely does. So yeah, that's my last official praise for the book. We are going to take a quick break. You guys, by listening to these commercials, you are supporting the podcast. We appreciate you for doing that. And while you are listening, hop on over to Amazon and pick up a copy of the book review journal, available right now. We will be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item. Okay, welcome back, guys. The back half of this conversation, we're going to probably do some more complaining, some more bitching.
Yeah.
And then we'll rate it. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. So now that that's out of the way.
Now that the happy stuff.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What's your number one complaint, you think? Do you have a number one complaint?
The whole story?
Okay. Okay.
Like, I'm trying to be nice in my mind, but honestly, like, I don't know. Maybe this should have ended with book 1.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, yeah, I understand that. The plot wasn't great.
No, it deviated so hard from the first book.
It was like a different
that it's
book.
like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Like half the book is Elm and Ione falling in love at the castle, which is cute and great and all, and I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the cards? What about the infected people? What about all this other stuff? Yeah, the other group is walking around in the woods, finding the realm of people who are infected living in the mist like we guessed would happen. But
Say that. I said there are people just out there.
Yes, you did. And then lo and behold, we have people just living out there. Like, it just they were focused on finding the maiden card.
Yes.
And that felt like it should have been its own thing by itself, separate from the main plot of finding all of the cards and getting all of the stuff together. Like, it just felt like two different books, not that much connected to the first one, because again, our main character's hidden away inside her own brain where she has nothing to do, and she's just learning about the king's life and his children and his dead relatives and dead family, and
which grows his character, not hers.
Which grows his character, not hers. Like, now he has all of this depth. He has all of our emotional, oh, this poor man, his children were murdered. Oh, let's feel bad for him. But what about Elspeth?
What about her?
Like, what about her? Why should I care about her? She's literally just a conduit for him.
Yeah, he just wanted to take care of her, I guess. He just,
He had that weird line where he was like, once I was in her head, I finally remembered what it was like to care about people and care about children, and I just want to take care of her. And I was like,
yeah.
But you ignore her for 10 years? And then as soon as she, like, starts talking to you, you're just a dick to her? Which, he's a dick.
That's what he was doing in the first book. Remember, I was saying, like, it's really unclear why he's helping her. Like, in certain ways, he helps her, and in certain ways,
other times he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why he was helping her. But again, it would have made more sense if he, like, helped her when she was 11 and talked to her and, like, fathered her. And it would be very creepy and absolutely grooming and make him a terrible person. Like, I'm not saying that's a good thing for him to do, but it would have made more sense for both of their characters if he had been there at 11 and been like, let me teach you about the magic, let me teach you about the cards, let me teach you how to run and defend yourself, and now let's go look for other cards so we can do this together. Like, if he had groomed her to be his little minion and they did this together.
That's what I said last time, but now I'm thinking, now that I know the character a little more, I feel like there could have been a way for him to do just that without the gross grooming part. I feel like
maybe if
there
he
could have
waited till
been
she
a
was like
way.
16 or 17.
Yeah.
But even then, like, just,
I don't know.
she hated him and feared him so much.
Because he
know.
created that initially out the gate. When he first got in her head, he could have not been scary.
Yes.
He could have chosen not to be scary.
Absolutely, yes.
But he didn't.
But he didn't. He chose to be scary. He chose to terrify her for like 10 years before she ran into somebody else who was looking for the cards. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to wake up and work now. And now we're going to do all of the stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but why did you wait 10 years? Why did you let her stumble into this? If she hadn't met
you
them.
could have been telling her the whole time. Y'all could have been looking for these cards.
This whole time.
And you have the ability to hop in to the place and protect her when you need to. So you could have been doing this for years. It doesn't make sense.
He could have taught her how to protect herself. So he didn't have to do that for her. So she can lie when she drinks from the poison cup. Like, that scene still bothers me so much. She was so bad at that. And he could have been teaching her for years how to do that. He could have been doing so much. And I think that's why I'm so mad at this book, because there's so much potential. And I see so much talent with Rachel. And it could have been so good.
It could have.
And I'm disappointed because there was potential and the story doesn't reach the potential.
You know, potential is like shoulda, woulda, coulda. I hate that word almost, because it's and I do think, I agree with you though. The potential was there. She had a really unique and different idea that was just poorly executed. But
was it even that unique and different?
Well, the cards were different. I haven't read that before.
We read the tarot cards with Kresley Cole.
Oh, shit. But that was a little different, though.
That's tarot cards, so it is a little different. But, like, we have read about magical cards. We've read about mysterious...
But those were gods as well. Those weren't, like, kings and queens, right?
Well, she was the empress.
I know, but it's
so you have the different levels.
Yeah,
but no, it was modern day, not fantasy, and then it was apocalyptic, and then
look, don't get me started because I talk shit about that shit too.
I know.
Which I never did finish. I still want to finish that.
We need to finish that. Maybe let's talk.
Let's talk, because I need to finish that for once and for all so we can see what happens. The pacing of this book was trash, just like the pacing of the first one.
Slow. I will say the pacing is slightly better than the first one, but it is snail slow.
I didn't think it got better until after... I think it was after Ione was able to undo the card. She was able to triple tap the card. To me, the thing kind of picked up a little bit after that.
Yes.
But I think that was the mark in the same, like, this is the mark where I could tell the pacing changed for me. But that was quite a ways into the book.
Oh, yeah.
Past 50%, I think.
Probably closer to like 60 or 70%.
Yeah.
Like, it was near the end when she finally fixed herself.
Yeah. You guys, when I started this book on Wednesday, today is Sunday, and I finished today. And that was by sheer will to get it done.
Willpower, yes.
I started this and was like, Wednesday came and I'm like, I have to read this book. God damn it. So I'm like, okay. So I started and it was just like not fun. I'm on my morning walks listening.
I'm like, so
I take long walks. So I was out like listening to like 100, like not 100, an hour and 20 minutes clips at a time in the morning. And then I'm like, shit, this is going too slow. I had to speed it up to 2x.
Oh, geez.
And then I'm like, okay, well, I guess I could, play this game, this Candy Crush game, and listen. I guess I could do this and do that. And it just was, I forced myself to get this done in time. It was an effort.
It was so hard to finish on time, and I barely made it. I was late to the podcast because I was finishing this. I started on Thursday, and usually I read a book in like a day or 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
and this was, I was like, I'm just skimming the last few chapters.
Yeah, the pace was bad. It was too long. It didn't need to be that long.
Mm-mm.
I was mad at that, especially how in the hell does it was less than 100 pages longer. It was more like 60 pages longer, but yet that turned into more than 2 hours of listening. Does that mean that the audiobook narrator really slowed down their cadence?
Maybe she did. I don't know.
And I wasn't going to go back to check. I wasn't going to compare.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I hated that shit. I mean, hated. Okay. Okay, what else in the technical realm should we talk about? Did you find any other?
I mean, let me keep bitching about Emery and how they delivered him back to the king only to turn around and be like, now we're bartering for him to leave. And I'm like, but he was already home. You didn't need to do this. You only did this so you can feel like a hero carrying him out and be like, oh, he's so weak and frail, but I am the hero now, carrying my brother out of the castle. And now I can say, fuck you to the king because I am the hero in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the only... Ugh! Poor Emery is being used like a pawn by both his family and the king. But then, he's magically cured because they fixed everything, and now he's happy, and everybody's happy, and their family can be whole again. And I was like, but he was fine. He was fine before. You could have kept him at home at the end of the last book.
Well, to him, the author pointed out home was the castle. Not his
Then why did he run away from the castle and go to where his family was?
I don't know. It's so weird. It doesn't really... The author totally just used him as a plot device.
Absolutely.
He just just to push the story along. She just
needed him around in certain places so somebody would touch him, and then he would be a prophet, and then they could be like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. I have 3 faces and a name, and I need to figure out what my name is. Like...
The whole what is your name thing. I'm like, what is this in the Rumpelstiltskin mess is this? Like, what is that?
Oh my god, yes.
That was hilarious.
That was hilarious.
So now there's a new card that has all of the other cards kind of melded into it.
Mm-hmm.
A 13th card. And this card just heals everyone who wants to be healed. Except... Elspeth cannot touch the card because if she does, everything will be undone. Right? That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
She can't touch it because all that went into it will be absorbed by her.
So that's something that I don't think the author ever really cleared up. Mm-hmm. Was that, is she actually absorbing the power, or is she just absorbing his soul? Because I thought it was just the soul that she was taking, because the card still worked. People could still use that card. The card was not destroyed when she touched it and took his soul.
Right.
So is this just a giant plot hole again for the entire fucking series?
Yes. Yes, it is. And then there was another thing where what's-his-face ripped a card.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
They're not supposed to break. But he can break them because lineage and...
So the magic, again, same as with the last time, it's just not fully fleshed out. I want to understand. Go ahead.
Dependent on the author's mood in the chapter, I feel like. She's like, I need the magic to do this, so I'm going to say this is possible because magic. But I'm also going to say this is possible because magic, and it's counterintuitive and doesn't really fit together, but magic. Just magic.
Just accept it.
Just accept it. Yes, it's all magic.
And let me just say, I am not 100% opposed to just accepting things if I love everything else.
Yes.
But when I'm criticizing everything else, at least make the magic make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's the least you can do for me.
Mm-hmm. If you have magic, magic has rules. There are some things magic can do. There's some things magic can't do. And you need to follow the rules. Unless there is a giant plot twist where you're like, oh, and now here's the reason why it doesn't work. Instead, she was like, oh yeah, I just need it to not work, so I'm gonna... Okay, yeah, it doesn't work this way.
That card was just destroyed just because I said so.
Just
and there's
because
no
I said so.
Rhyme or reason whatsoever. Just because.
Yeah. Yeah. It was...
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just a lot that left me wanting something different from this book, from this duology.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like I wasted almost 30 hours that I'll never get back between the two books.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of disappointed with Book Talk because I'm in the camp, same as you. What book was everybody else reading?
Right?
What were y'all reading? Because...
Are they just so surprised by, like, the competency of her sentences? They're like, wow, these sentences are pretty and well done, and she knows how to write, that they're not, like, actually absorbing the content of the sentence? Because they're used to bad writers not being, like, very flowery and... I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't have read the second book if it wasn't for the podcast and the book club.
No, absolutely not.
I would have stopped with book one, and that would have been a wise decision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think the payoff and the things that I liked in book two were enough to pick up the gaps.
No.
Unfortunately.
No, not at all.
No. And I said this before, but sometimes I really, really hate being the outlier.
Oh, I do too.
I just really dislike something that it seems like a ton of people enjoy.
I have heard so many people praise this series, this duology. I've heard so many people talk about how amazing it is. We mentioned the cover art and the marketing and how perfect that was. I wanted this to be the best duology ever. I wanted it to be 5 stars all the way. And then we open it and read it and we're like, wait a second. Nothing makes sense. Make it make sense.
And even our main character, who was our main character in the first book, Elspeth, I think the author wanted us to find her strong and fearless and, stand up to the nightmare in her head. But she was flat on all of that, even
on
through the
everything.
End, all the way through. This character was so awful.
So flat.
So flat.
She has no personality. She has nothing. Like, there's nothing about her. I cannot describe her. She likes to go sit on a rock and cry. Yeah. Like, that is her personality. And while I will do that sometimes too when I'm depressed, like, I'm not bashing that. Depressed people go sit on rocks. Like, yes, that's real. Yeah. But what else does she do? What else does she like? What else does she want?
Yeah, and I almost think that putting that main character on the bench in the second book did not help. It did not help the case.
Not at all. No.
She had, and we talked about this a little earlier, she had some opportunities to kind of make this character
shine.
Better.
Do something. There was so much potential with this.
Absolutely.
And I'm very disappointed.
Me too. I'm very disappointed. And we're in the lower, I guess, I'm looking at the ratings on Goodreads. I guess we're in the 2%.
Oh, God.
The 2% that didn't like this book, because 55% of the people gave it 5 stars. And 33% gave 4 stars. And 8% gave 3 stars, if you're curious. But I don't understand.
Do people just not have critical thinking?
I don't know.
I know that's really mean to say.
I don't know.
Like we pointed out with the magic, it make sense. If somebody can sit down and explain it to me in a way that I'm like, oh, okay, now I understand. But also, why wasn't it explained this well in the book?
Yeah. And maybe again, it's because, we're older readers. We're not 20-year-olds,
We've been around the
16-year-olds.
bend. We've read
Yeah.
thousands of books.
So
We know,
maybe,
okay, this is good writing, but the story is shit.
yeah. And I think maybe, and I wish I could see some demographics of the 5 stars. I
Mhm.
really would. If there are a bunch of 18-year-olds, back in the day when you started reading this stuff, everything was great.
Back in the day, I gave a lot of 5 stars to bad books.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, is this a case of that?
Maybe.
Or is it a case of like herd mentality? Everyone that watches TikTok or Book Talk, they're like being fed that it's good, so they just think it's good.
Maybe. We can have that conversation about a whole lot of authors and a whole lot of series.
Yeah. So yeah, I unfortunately will have to rate this book. Casey, should we go ahead and
Let's go ahead and do it, because we're just going to stay mean at this point.
So I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. And I think I gave the last one 2 out of 5 as well. Because it didn't get better. It didn't get worse, but it didn't get better either. So it wasn't the worst thing I ever read in the world. So that's why I got a 2, not a 1. What about you?
Same. I gave it 2 stars last time. I'm giving it 2 stars this time. There were some good qualities about this story. She does have a lot of talent, and she can write really pretty sentences.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the content of the story is not there. It's not. There's so much potential, and she fell so flat.
Casey, I should have took a shot every time you say potential.
Yeah.
I'd be drunk.
You'll be so drunk. Potential. She has so much potential.
You are right, though. I feel like she had a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And all that this series or duology had all of the elements. It was all the elements that were sold to me.
Yes.
Were all things that I know I would have liked.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We had all of the right things.
Right.
And it just did not come together.
Right.
And that's why it's 2 stars, is because I'm disappointed that it didn't turn out better.
Right.
If I could sit down with this author, I'd give her a bottle of wine and be like, all right, babe, let me help you. Mm-hmm. Let me make this better. Let's work together to fix all of this and make it so much better. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'll end on potential again. Just potential.
Okay, we're done. And as of this moment, we don't know what we're reading next. So if you are listening to this on the podcast feed, you should probably join us in other places, because by the time this airs, you'll know what we're reading next, even though we don't know at time of recording.
I'm going to pick in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah. So if you are listening, like I said, on the feed, it's in your best interest, if you want to read along with us, you want to know what we're reading beforehand, to join us over on the Book Clubs app, or even join us on Patreon, because I do post ahead of time there. So yeah. So you guys, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode. We appreciate you for doing that. If you would like to leave comments on this book and what you thought, guess what? You can do so on Spotify. There's a spot for you to leave comments. Or you can reach out to me in other places, except for X. And we can chat. So yeah, that's it for today. Anything else, Casey?
That's it for me.
All right, you guys, it's been a good one. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Did you enjoy today's episode? If so, please head over to Apple Podcast or Spotify and leave a positive 5-star review. It's a simple action that makes a big difference. You can also like this episode on your favorite podcast player or share it with your fellow bookworm friends on social media. Joining the Shelf Addiction Patreon family is another way to support us. For as little as $2 a month, you can help our team create even more amazing bookish content. If Patreon isn't your thing, consider becoming a supporter on the Spreaker app for just $5 a month and gain access to exclusive audio-only content. You can find me everywhere, including Instagram, X, and TikTok under the handle Shelf Addiction. Join our book club of the same name on the book club's website and app, where we discuss all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. Thanks for tuning in.